Okay, I'll be right back in just a minute. I got everything set up already, so I can just jump right into it when I get back. Green, 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 green. Okay. Let's go ahead and get the set review started. Boom. Okay. Hi, it's me here again. Just gonna give you a quick breakdown of the green portion of this set. At this point, I think that red is looking pretty strong. I don't know if it just depends, but if the synergies in red are really really good, blue, eh. White looks good. Black looks strong. I think black and red are looking the strongest. But on to green. I tend to try to draft green strategies in draft. They're fair. A lot of their cards tend to be 2-for-1s. You'll have a lot of enter the battlefield effects. So we'll see what green has lying in wait for us here today. When this creature enters mill 3, you may put a land card from among them into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Okay. That's pretty good. At worst, it's a 1/1 that got you a land in your hand, so it's actually a draw card. Or it's a 2/2. Overall, solid card. I think it's just going to be a B-. I think you might want to give it a C+. Just it's not doing any carrying or heavy lifting. It's just getting you there, which is part of what you're trying to do in green. Next up, we have a Tuned Hunter. It's 3/3 trample for 3. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Okay. There's a lot of escape card or not escape. Is it escape? Awaken. I think it is awaken cards. Whenever they leave your graveyard, you can put a counter on this creature. This could be interesting with all the black cards that can leave the graveyards to put counters on things as well. So you could get two effects off of it onto this. I could see this card getting really big with in black green. Yeah, I could see this just being an absolute house. Like you're playing a bomb for 3 mana in black green. So, but that's in the proper deck. Again, this is definitely going to be something I'm going to attempt to draft. I'm going to put this card at like a C plus. I'm actually going to give it a B minus. I think this card is better than a C plus, and I think it could be even better than that. It really is just going to depend on the synergies within your deck, and if you're capable of getting those other counter synergies. So, just something to look out for. Bloomvine Regent 3/2 green for a flying. This doesn't look like a flyer. Flying. Whenever this creature or another dragon you control enters, you gain 3 life. Wow, that's good. I like this card a lot. What's the Omen side do? Search your library for up to 2 basic forest cards. Reveal them. Put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle. Okay. So this is basically draw 2 lands for 3. Not bad. It plays into itself. So you'll be able to play this for 3. It'll get another land. So this is like a really good constructed card. I think you're going to guarantee this side's going to guarantee this side every time, and it's going to come down as a 4/5 that gains you 3. So this could potentially hose out some red decks. However, you're going to be taking turn 3 off to do so. I think that this is a bomb enough card to pick. I think that this is going to be a B. It's just going to hose out those red aggressive decks, and it just it doesn't die to the 4 damage for 2 red spell. There's just a lot of good things about this card. Yeah, you see this, you should probably first pick it. Champion of Doosan. He's a Doosan. 2 and a green, trample, renew, 1 and a green. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a +1 and a trample counter on target creature. That's what's up. So for 2 mana, this card then becomes a +1/+1 and trample. Okay, so this is good. It's a 4/2. This card might be one of the better commons. I didn't even know this was a thing. This is a very strong card. I'm going to give this a B minus. I think this is a card you're going to want to draft. It's going to require some testing, but this is just anything that is guaranteed to come out and be a 2-for-1 eventually. Usually worth it. So trample is going to be a valuable effect, especially in green, and pumping is also a valuable effect. So it's not the strongest, but it'll definitely do a lot of work. Craterhoof Behemoth, everybody's favorite behemoth. He is a 5/5 for 8, 5 and 3 green. Haste. Why has he got haste? I don't know. When this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This card's generally considered to be a GG. However, he's played and constructed, and you usually play him with a bunch of elves. In this format, I don't think he's going to be that great. I think that you will play him potentially if you draft the card or seed the card. However, he's triple green in a 5-color format, potentially. You could be playing a 5-color deck. Not the easiest thing, but usually by the time you have 8 mana, if you're a green-based deck, you can pull it off. Now, you're not going to have a massive amount of creatures on your board unless you're in a gigantic board stall. And if you're in a gigantic board stall, this guy wins you the game every time. So this card could be an A+ if board stalls are very common. If everybody's playing out to board stalls, this is going to become an A+ bomb. You're going to want to draft it, and even if you see it in pack 3 and you're not heavy green, you'll find a way to run it in your deck. Um, Now, if we're not board stalling in this format, if people aren't just playing a bunch of junk to clutter the board, that's a lot of people's strategies, just to play stuff. If I play enough stuff on the board, then they can't attack, but neither can I, because we both have just bad attacks, and then we have to rely on flyers or unblockables and things like that to get through actual damage. If that's the case, this card's probably a C, because you're playing a 5/5 haster for 8. So it's not that good when it is just on the board by itself. So there's not that many board wipes in the format. There's the one black dragon I think we've come across that does the kill all non-dragons. I think that this card is good. I don't think it's going to be the game breaker that it could be in other formats, just because I think we're going to focus on chip damage from in the air, unblockable sources, and other effects like that. Pings, random tokens getting through. All the small chip damage is what's going to end up making you successful in this format from what I see. Now, that I could be wrong. And like I said, if you can make a deck that does board stall, and you just board stall, draw into this, win the game. So, all right, on to the next one. Oop, too many. Dragon Sniper. I've seen this guy. He's very simple, straightforward, awesome card. One of the coolest things I've seen printed in a second from Wizards, I think. He's so simple but so good. Vigilance, Reach, Death Touch. He does everything. He blocks the giant creatures in the air. He makes me want to play like Ojutai's command so that I can get him back at instant speed. Reach, Death Touch, anything. You know, he's got Vigilance. He can attack. He can attack and still block. This card's good. It's not going to win you games. I just like this card. I think it's good. They're going to be forced into trading off with it because Vigilance makes it so that it will attack and then block every single turn. If you're not attacking with this, you're kind of doing it wrong unless there's something on the board that's just a horrendous trade, like a 1/1 token. And that's when people will make things like the 1/1 token when they see this on the opponent's side of the board. So overall, I want to give it a B-. I mean, you're happy to run like 3 of these in your deck, I would think. It might be a little bit slow, but I would run 2 or 3 even. You could suit it up really well with any kind of permanent buffs. So yeah, it's just a good card. The next one, Dragon Brood's Relic. Tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. That's always good, especially in a 5 heavy, maybe you might play a 5-color deck. Sometimes in this format, 5-color format, I call it. So 3, and then Wooburg. To sacrifice this artifact, create a 4/4 dragon creature token named Reliquary Dragon. That's all colors. It has flying, light, and lifelink, and when this token enters, it deals 3 damage to any target. Okay, I actually heard somebody talk about this card briefly because it does Helix them. So if you do 3 damage to your opponent or to one of their cards that are on the board and you actually kill it, you will gain the 3 life. So this card is really good at catching you back up. I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm a big fan of these style cards. And I think that if there is a creatureless control deck in the format, and I say creatureless because this thing's turning into a 4/4 dragon, it probably centers around this card a bit. Coming down on turn 2 in green, pretty easy, so you're a green-based deck. Now you're able to pretty much cast anything on turn 4. You have to tap it and tap an untapped creature you control. So as long as you're able to maintain a creature on the board, which there's got to be some kind of creatures that you can run, or even creatures that produce multiple creatures so they can't deal with everything, like tokens. You'll be able to add that 1 mana. Now, as long as you're able to get to the point where you're flipping this, you'll stabilize in most scenarios, and you'll probably come back. Now, does this measure up against the other bombs in the format? I don't know how well. Clearly not against like Ugin, but I think this card is definitely going to be worth a try, and it's going to be fun. This card's probably going to be one of the more fun things for you to do in the format, so I'm going to be interested to see how this one goes. Drafting like 2 or 3 of these and then forcing 5 colors where you just take all the best removal and bombs in every pack is... it's going to be a lot of fun. So, just kind of thinking off the top of my head what low-costed creature I'd like to run with this, but that's another problem that we'll solve. We'll solve it when we get there. Overall, I want to give this card... it's hard to evaluate this card without fully taking note into what creatures you're going to be tapping to generate this additional mana. If you're capable of consistently producing a good 1-drop in the format, the one we just went over, or if you're capable of consistently making a creature that has a token that comes alongside it, this card goes up in value in stock and will probably be a B. If that is not very... if this is not a very common occurrence where you can actually tap a creature, or if you don't have a creature or you can't construct a deck to do it, this card will probably end up being a C-, because it'll just sit there for 2 mana, never being used until you actually go to fire it off. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Dusyut Earthcover. Reach for 5 and a green, so 6 mana. When this creature enters, it endures 3. So he's a 7/7 reach for 6. Is that right? That is really strong. Yeah, that blocks any of the dragons we've seen so far. That's requires a double block on attack. He doesn't have defender. This is a pretty good common at worst case scenario, right? In its worst case scenario, it would just be a 7/7. But if you needed to block 2 creatures, you can do that. This card just helps you stabilize. I see this card being played for sure. I just don't know where I want to rate it. I think I want to put it in a C. Maybe a C+. It's probably better than a C. It's probably a C+. This is a big card. If you can get this out early, it'll stabilize you, and it might carry you to the W. Up next, Encroaching Dragonstorm. When this enchantment enters, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. When a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. Okay. So this could thin your deck to the point. So you would take one of these and play it if you're playing big green stuff. It could, if you had enough mana laying around, thin your deck to the point where you're chaining dragons, chaining this, you're getting your lands out of your deck, and then you end up winning just because you're drawing only gas. However, this thing comes down a turn later than the prior ramp spell that we looked at. I do like the fact that it puts them both onto the battlefield, so you can go from turn 4 to turn 7. So if you have a 7-costed bomb that you draft, this card's stock goes up. It's hard to rate the ramp spells until you've seen all the bombs in the format, and we have yet to do multicolored. I think that I'm going to give it a C. There's a lot of dragons. It could be better than a C. It could be a C plus, even a B minus. If, like I'd said, you're trying to go from turn 4 to 7. So if you go turn 2 and 3, you just try to stabilize, then you play this, and then now you're on turn 7. You're looking pretty good. So we'll see how this plays out. Formation Breaker, 1 and a green. Creatures with power less than this creature's power can't block it. So this is a really good card to use with like all those counters and everything like that. As long as you control a creature with a counter on it, counters, this creature gets +1/+2. So if we put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, it would be a 4/4. That's really strong. So 4/4 with evasion. So most stuff can't block it. Usually these cards are written inversely, I believe, where creature with power greater than this creature's power can't block it. So that you could only be chumped. But I could be wrong. Usually I think that they just make it so that you can't be blocked by like the larger creatures. So this makes this card kind of interesting. This can only be blocked by big things. So it can't be chumped. And it's just a pretty big beater for 2. At worst, it's a 2/1. At best, it could be a 3/3 for 2. And it gets in some damage. I'm not the highest on this card. I think that it's going to take you more than what you would normally expect to get a counter. So that this card gets to the point where it's actually popping off and doing stuff that you want it to do. So you're going to be a 2/1 most of the time. But it's going to be able to get through some damage in some scenarios. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a C+. And hopefully it proves me wrong, because this card has some potential. Next up, Herd Heirloom, dude. The Herd Heirloom. For 1 and a green. Tap. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. That's what's up. Until end of turn, target creature you control with power 4 or greater gains trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. What? This card's busted. So, comes down, ramps you into a giant creature that has over 4 power, then draws you cards for the rest of the game. This seems really, really, really good. Normally, cards that draw you a card whenever you deal damage are instantly removed as soon as you play them in any draft format. If they get 1 or 2 hits in, the game is completely over. I don't think there's anything different with this card. The biggest caveat I see is that it helps you get to the cards, and it's not attached to anything. Normally these cards have to attach to creatures, enchant them or something like that, and what ends up happening is when that creature dies, you lose this card. However, in this scenario, when that creature dies, you do not lose this card. This card sticks around, so you'll continue to draw cards off of your other creatures. So I think that this is going to be busted. I want to give this card an A. I don't see why you wouldn't give this card an A. I think that this is going to carry games on its own almost. And yeah, this card's kind of insane. Next up, we have Heritage Reclamation. Choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, draw a card. Okay, so you can instant speed exile a card. Interesting. Destroy an enchantment or destroy an artifact. We just went over an artifact. I think I gave an A. I saw an artifact earlier that I gave a B plus or A minus to. I think that this is going to be a playable card. There are Oblivion Ring style enchantments. And there are cards that when they hit the graveyard are threats. So if there's a card in a graveyard that's a threat and you can remove the threat before it becomes a problem, and then also draw a card, that might actually be the best mode on this card. I You could definitely main deck one of these, especially in best of one draft mode, and you're gonna get people with this, and you're gonna win the game sometimes. So with this card, it's good. I would run one, and like I said, best of one, and I'd probably sideboard this and potentially run one main deck in a best of three. Inspired Vanguard, 4 and a green. When this creature enters or attacks, it endures 2. Okay. So this is a really good card. So it comes in as a 5/4, and then it attacks, and then it's a 7/6. If you can manage to get this creature to enter the battlefield earlier than turn 5, like you can with green, they're going to have a bad time. I think that this card is a B plus, is a B. It's gotta be up there. This card could win you the game on its own, especially if they can't continuously block it every single turn. This card will win you the game on its own. So, solid card, pretty straightforward, very good beater. Knockout Maneuver, 2 and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. It's a sorcery speed. I don't like that. I like that it gives a counter. So if you're playing anything that's a counter-based deck, or one of the better combos I could see happening is this guy. Play this on turn 2. You play this on turn 3. That guy's going to be a 4/4 that kills something, and then he just beats for 4 for the rest of the game. He's very hard to deal with, so that's probably what I would like to try to do with this card. We'll see how it plays out. I don't think it's that good because it's a sorcery, and it costs 3. So, but it is a bite, not a fight. So, I don't know. I'm gonna want to give this card a B minus, a C plus. I just don't think it's that good. But depends on how important the counters are in the format. Let's see. Crotic Nesgard, or Crotic. 2 and a green. Creature insect defender. For a 4/4 defender, this creature can attack. This turns out it didn't have defender. Very simple. I don't think this card's gonna be the end all be all. Depends on how much you really want to turn on that power 4 or greater in Teamer. If you're trying to play power 4 or greater, this is a perfect card to do so. It's just a early enough game blocker that will eat something every time they attack into you, and then it'll trigger that effect for you. Overall, I'm just going to give this card a C plus. I don't think it's great. I think it's good filler, good enough filler. So, Lacid Prowler, 2 and 2 green for a rare 5/5. He's over the value, so this is good. When this creature enters, you may mill cards equal to the number of lands you control. Okay, that's fine. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. Oof. Just not hitting there. Not really hitting there. There's not that many cards that are going to put lands into your graveyard. When you play this card, you don't normally want to mill yourself for a whole lot, just because games can go to the point where one person is getting milled out, especially in a draft format. So I'm really not that high on this card. I would play it as a 5/5 for 4 any day, and then maybe the effect matters sometime down the line. I have to give this card a B minus, just because I think that I actually think that this guy is probably better than it, but it does come down a turn earlier. It's not bad. You'd play it in any green based deck that you're playing. So overall, its effects just its whole text box just doesn't feel good for draft for sure. It's just a five. It feels like it's just going to be a 5/5 for 4. 90% of the time you play this card. All right, on to the next one. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So it's a Genesis Wave or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Nature's Rhythm, X and 2 green, Harmonize. You can do it again. I think I have a hard time rating this card. This might be one of the harder ones to rate. I don't think these cards are generally too good. You're not going to have all the extra mana in the world to be ripping out whatever you feel like you want out of your deck. These cards are tend to be used in like toolbox style decks. This could be a very good toolbox style card because you do have the capability of getting 2 separate tools out of your kit. So I could see this seeing play in some kind of like constructed format. However, I just don't think these are very good in draft. People will probably try to figure something out. There's probably some kind of synergy that you could do with this where you try to bring in a creature that's good enough to stabilize you. If there's like a 6/6 that gains you 6, for example, for 6 mana, it's a lot of 6s, you could consider playing this. That would have to be at like common or something like that. You know what I mean? You would grab that, and then next turn you would grab another one of them, and you'd be more than happy to gain 12 and play 2 6/6s, and you'll probably end up stabilizing. However, I didn't see much life gain so far in green, so we're going to have to assume that it does not exist yet. So for right now, I want to give this card a C, C minus. Give it a C minus. It might even be worse than that, but like I said, it could be better if there is. I'm looking for a good green common bomb that gains life now to make this card like a B, and then you could potentially have a whole another draftable deck in the format. People are already going to be drafting those healer cards, as I call them, but this card would potentially go within that deck if you're ramping into those. Next up, we have Piercing Exhale, 1 in a green. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may behold a dragon. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. If a dragon was beheld, surveil 2. So that's kind of like the worst one I've seen so far for these beholds. The red one made it instant speed, which was a big change for that card. This is just free surveil 2. So this card's actually just as good without revealing a dragon. Almost. You get a free surveil 2, which is it's good, but it's just not. It doesn't really change what the card does like the other ones. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. The or planeswalker is huge. I've seen Ugin in the format. I don't know what other planeswalkers exist, but that does make this card very good for constructed. I do think that this will definitely see playing constructed because of that. Probably just like standard or something like that, but I don't even know. I don't really people don't tend to like these fight cards or whatever because they can 2-for-1 you by killing the creature in response. I understand, I get that. However, this does answer problems that you wouldn't otherwise be able to deal with. So this card for me, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a B, flat B. I think bite cards, bites. This is a legitimate bite. One in a green is the standard for bite, I believe, and it also bites planeswalkers. And then it can surveil you too. So this is one of those cards where this might be the best bite printed. I don't know if there's a 1 mana bite that exists that's better than that, but it's not like there. It's something that you'd be in the market for running in like Modern or Explorer, any of those like more powerful formats. It's just interesting to note that this might be one of the better bites ever printed. So it might be the best bite ever printed. I can't think of one off the top of my head that's better than it. I would have to look at 1 mana bite effects. Rain Veil Rejuvenator. 3 and a green for a 2/4 that when this creature enters, you may mill 3 cards. Yay, we're milling ourselves again. Add an amount of green equal to this creature's power. Okay, that's interesting. So it's actually good to mill ourselves if the cards in our graveyard can increase this creature's power. So if we can put +1/+1 counters on this guy, we can get a lot of mana. He's also got a big butt, so he's really good at blocking. It just depends on how heavily we want to ramp. This card is something I could see being played in a deck that gets Craterhoof Behemoth. If you draft Craterhoof Behemoth, you're definitely trying to pick these things up. Now, what other strictly green or large creatures you're attempting to ramp into would just depend. I'm not a big fan of these large mana rampers. Like if I'm paying 4 mana for you, you better be a little bit better than this. But this card's not bad, and it's definitely playable. I think it's just a B-, C+. But again, it's just going to depend on your deck. If your deck has these large, like this jumps you from turn 6 or turn 4 to 7. So if you have a large 7-drop, this one might be more beneficial to you than the other, the enchantment we discussed, just because it can block. So you play it on 4, it helps you stabilize some life and take a little bit less damage, but then it also allows you to play your 7-drop on the following turn 5. So this card can be good for sure. All right, on to the next one. Red of Renewal, 3 and a green. Return up to 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Target player shuffles up to 4 target cards from their graveyard into their library. Exile Rite of Renewal. Return up to 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, then target player. See, this is an interesting one if you're gonna like deck, but I just don't like this card. I just don't like this card, like at all. However, there's going to be something broken with it in like a constructed format or something. They had to put the exile clause onto it. So I would just want to give this card like a D. I just don't think this card's good. 4 mana, you better be doing something better than getting cards back from your graveyard. That's all I have to say. Roamer's Routine. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So it's rampant growth. You could harmonize later. This card's not very good. It's only going to gain you 1 mana. The other card we saw earlier, which was a 3 mana, gave you 2 lands. 1 on the battlefield, 1 in your hand. You're going to have to cast it again later to get the value out of it. I wouldn't even want to draft this card. The only reason I would be interested in drafting this card is if I'm playing a 5-color deck or a 4-color deck, and I know that I'm going to have issues hitting my specific colors. So with that in mind, potentially, right now, I think this is just a D+. Yeah, I don't think it's going to change. Sage of the Fang, 2 and a green. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Okay, so it's a 3/3 for 3. Renew. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Then double the number of +1/+1 counters on that creature. Okay. I've seen this before. I don't remember where. This card can make something into a giant, basically. I think that this is good. You want to play this as a 3/3. You want to trade it off so that you can get to the renew phase of it. This card's going to get you there. This is probably one of the more solid fillers we've seen in green. I want to give it a B minus. Next up, we have Segu Pummeler, 3 and a green. This guy looks cooler than shit. Reach, 4/4 for. Okay, so it's a 4/4 for 4 with reach. 4 and a green. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put 2 counters and a reach counter on a creature. Okay. I like this guy. I'm actually kind of just sold on this guy. I think you should draft this guy. It's gonna block most. It blocks everything. It trades with almost anything. When he does die, he turns one of your bears into him with reach. So if you have just a 2/2 bear on your board, he becomes him for 5 mana. So this card is good. I think I would just give it a B minus. I think I want to give it a B minus just because it's a common. It doesn't do much if you don't have other creatures on the board, but you're happy to play a 4/4 for 4 that can block anything. So, good card. Sadu Wildling, 4 and a green. For a flying, when this creature enters, you gain 3 life. Holy moly, it's what we were talking about. So, it's not really good enough. I said 6/6 for 6 that gains you 6. This is a 3/3 for 5 that gains you 3. Doesn't do much blocking. It's solid. I play this card all day long, but it's just not that card that I want to be searching for with that other card. So I think I'm going to leave that one's valuation where it was. The other side of this is Roost Seek. For 1 green, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Okay, very good. That's exactly what you want to do with these cards is put the Omen, shuffle it back into your deck, grab a land out. Great. That's what's up. You need another land? You got it. Yeah. This is a good card. When it enters, you gain 3. You just have to give this card a B minus. There's just no way you can't. It's going to stabilize you a lot of times. It can get in there. It can do flying damage when you the game. Yeah, you're not going to win the game with flying in most cases in this set, but it's something to keep in mind. Sarkhan's Resolve, 1 and a green. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Destroy target creature with flying. I want to draft like 3 of these in every green deck. Nah, I'm not. I mean, maybe not 3, but 2. I want 2 in every green deck I'm drafting. You can attack into anything. You can kill their biggest threat. All on the same card. I want to give this card a B. I might be rating it a little too high, but I want to give this card a B. And I think that this is going to be the card that carries green decks. Either you have this card in your hand, and you are willingly able to attack into their creatures, or you don't have this card in your hand, and you can not attack ever. So that's how I see this card going. So, yeah, it could be the point where you want to draft even three of these and put it into a deck, and you're not upset. Yep. Good card. Oh, Snakeskin Veil's back. That's good. This isn't even an uncommon or anything. Okay, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. So the permanent counter is good, and it usually counters a spell. So this spell will counter a spell for 1 green, and it leaves a permanent counter. This card's broken. It's been broken. It'll remain broken. Pick this card. Run a couple of them. That makes you blower on this card a little bit, just because Snakeskin Veil's a thing. Once you get a giant threat on the board and you're able to untap and keep Snakeskin Veil up, there's practically no way for them to kill your creatures or creature. So I'm higher on this card than I am on Sharkon's Resolve, but Sharkon's Resolve does deal with a flying creature. However, you only want to run a certain amount of these cards within your deck. You want to have like 15, 16 creatures, and you only want to have like 4 or 5 of these spells at the most. Three of these style spells at the most. So if you run 15 creatures and then you run 5 removal, 4 removal, right? You run 5 removal. This only leaves you spot for 3 of these cards. And we're not counting like ramp cards. We're not counting artifacts. There's a lot of stuff that you're not considering. You're not considering any enchantments, although a lot of enchantments like Banishing Light aren't really enchantments. They're more removal. So it's definitely something to consider. The density of your instant and sorcery speed spells. Sultai Devotee, 1 and a green. For Death Touch, this might be one of the better ones. He's guaranteed to trade. I do like the one that has recursion. He is a zombie snake druid, so he's cooler than shit. Look how cool he is. And yeah, just filters. He's good. I want to give him... I have not high on these cards. C. He's probably one of the better ones. C+? Just because he's Death Touch? Death Touch. Sirach, Elusive Hunter. The spell can't be countered. Great. Trample. Great. Whenever a creature you control or a creature spell you control becomes a targeted spell or ability an opponent controls, draw a card. Great. So, spell can't be countered. So you have to deal with it while it's on the board. When you do deal with it while it's on the board, with a removal spell, you allow your opponent to draw a card. And then if you have to deal with another creature before you deal with this creature, then your opponent's drawing 2 cards. This card's broken in Constructed and good in Limited. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say broken in Constructed just because you can board wipe against it. If you board wipe against it, then nothing's targeted and they will not be drawing any extra cards. However, I think that this is just going to be like... I think this is going to be played in Constructed for sure, because it is power 4 or greater, triggers most of the things you want, can't be countered by blues, shenanigans. But in Draft, I feel like this card's just... The can't be countered clause probably doesn't matter. It's going to just be a 4/3 trampler that if it gets targeted, then you'll draw. But they'll just probably never target it. They'll try to trade off with you in combat. It can be worked around. I think it's just going to be a 4/3 for 3, which is still above par. Giving it a B. I'm going to give it a solid B. Definitely first pickable still, but I don't see it drawing you too many cards. Probably just 1, because they'll probably just target it and kill it. Next up, Synchronized Charge, 1 and a green. Distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures you control. Creatures you control with counters on them gain Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. Vigilance and Trample, you say? And then anything that would benefit from the counter... I mean, it's not bad. It's just sorcery speed. I don't see this being too good. But this is like one of those cards that if board stalls are popular, this card's a bomb. And if board stalls don't happen, then this card's complete trash. So, are we going to stall the board? I don't know. Probably on day 1, there's going to be a decent amount of board stalls. I think that this card would probably... Like, if board stalls happen a lot, this card's going to be a B-. If board stalls never happen, this card is a D-. So, let's just stick it there. Sounds good. Trade Route Envoy. When this creature enters, draw a card. If you control a creature with a counter on it. If you don't draw a card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this is just a really good card. At common, for sure, you're probably going to play it as a 4-3 for 4 that draws you a card. I think a lot of people don't understand how much of an advantage that would be, but you're up one all the time. You just keep playing these cards. This card might be the best common. The card might be the best common in the entire format. Is that crazy? Nah, I wouldn't even say. I wouldn't go as far as to say that. Just because it does have the clause of you being required to have another creature to infinitely draw. So he's up there. He's a B at least, if not a B plus. He's a 5-4 for 4 common. Like normally that's a rare. So he's a 5-4 for 4. And then he has a counter on him. So anything that you have that requires or that benefits from any counter being on your creatures is going to trigger that. You're just going to be drawing additional cards. If you have multiples of these, you can just chain them. This card could be good. Could be really, 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 really good. So let's go with a B plus on him. It's not like a first pickable. It does trigger power 4 greater. I don't even know if I want to say this isn't first pickable. This might be a first pickable card. It might be the best common. It might be. I'm high on this card. We'll have to see how it turns out. Traveling Botanist, 1 and a green. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. So this is good. This is like crazy above average. So it's a 2-3 for 2. Already above average. Then it's drawing you cards. Just every turn. Whenever it can attack, it could draw you cards. This is very strong. This is at least a B. And I don't see any way that changes. This might be the best two-coster uncommon in the format. Green's got some decent cards, that's for sure. Just looking at green, and green has some decent cards. Undergrowth Leopard, 1 and a green. Vigilance for 2/2. Sacrifice this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So these cards are pretty good. It attacks, it blocks. And then you have the clause of being able to use it to remove something. I don't know why this has to pay 1. Because sometimes you can just... You used to be able to just sacrifice this creature, you know what I mean? Destroying artifact or enchantment, instant speed. But the fact that it does cost 1 makes it a little bit worse. There are going to be a decent amount of artifacts and enchantments that you're going to want to remove. This card is definitely something you're going to want to draft. This might be one of the better bears in the format for sure. It's good to play it out early. Then it can attack and block for you. And then when it's not going to be useful, it can potentially get your biggest threat out of an Oblivion Ring. Or it could destroy an artifact threat. So it's definitely good. I'm just going to go with the C plus on this one. It might be a B minus. Warden of the Grove, 2 and a green. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Whenever another non-token creature you control enters, it endures X, where X is the number of counters on this creature. So this is good. It comes in, it's a 3/3 at the end of the turn. Nothing really deals 2, except for that 1 red spell that can kind of get you before you get the counter on. So whenever another non-token creature you control enters, it endures X, which is the amount of counters. So the next turn you play a creature, you're going to get a creature with an additional counter on it. This is going to boost your entire team for the rest of the game, even if they manage to remove this. The cards that you were able to play before they did so are going to have a massive impact. with them having 1, 2, or even 3 more counters on them than what they should. This card's a bomb. For sure. I mean, if you're just playing, you could just play bears afterwards. And you would be more than happy to just play a 2/2 that turns into a 3/3 because this guy's on your board. And it's gonna make all the difference. So this card's definitely an A-, B+. I'm gonna go with an A-. I think you would first pick this card. Okay, so that brings me on to the multicolored portion of the format. I'm going to go ahead and take a 2-minute break. Let's see here. Coffee break, coffee break. I'm going to take a coffee break, coffee break, coffee break. Multicolored.